love Jalen Duncan. You
Well,
just love talking about him.
I think his Senior Bowl was a really interesting Senior Bowl last year, and I thought he was a good example of this, where he's getting coached up on certain things that he's doing, and then by the end of the week, you kind of notice he's better, and that's how I thought it would improve his draft stock. It wasn't the case, but those are the things that I'm looking for, like who's getting the special attention, who is responding to it. There is an element of vibes here. I mean, you just kind of want to see who, like we talked about with John Michael Schmitz last year, like who is, when they're not running the reps themselves, who is over talking to the other offensive linemen, coaching them up a little bit, because that's leadership. That's a tangible way that you can look at a prospect and say there are leadership skills here. So those are the big things for me as far as like the one-on-ones. Listen, this is going to be good competition for a lot of these guys. This might be the best competition that they've faced throughout the season. So you want to see them apply the technique and use their size and speed to beat guys, to win one-on-one reps.
So when you were talking about the difference between a center, an offensive guard, and a tackle, okay, so we obviously have a tweener like Jordan Morgan that we believe is going to be a guard.
Yeah.
We believe that Dominic Puny, though, who has measured in a little bit longer than what we thought, but has a smaller maybe frame and build, he may get some play at both spots. So what are you looking for in the difference between, is there a difference of what you're looking for between a tackle and a guard?
Well, yes, because the tackles are going to have to deal with the edge rushers.
Okay.
And there's more speed, there's more bend, there's a lot more area to defend too. I mean, you think about it from just a pure physics standpoint, the entire side of the field is in play there. And, those are the situations where, it might not just be the edge rusher, but you might have a linebacker coming around the edge. You might have a safety blitz kind of deal. Like, there's so much more for tackles to process, and there's so much more space for them to defend, that you've really got to that's why to me technique is so important for the tackles, because you've got to see them get in position and use their full toolkit. They've got a deeper toolkit than you would expect a guard to have, I would say, and you've got to see them execute on that. Whereas, the guard, there's less space to defend, the assignments are different, and you can kind of get away. You're not doing like vertical sets where you're just jumping back 5 yards, and it's a different skill set. So
like a guy like Brandon Coleman, we were talking about him before we went on the air, and I think he's a good example of a guy that, besides Dominic Puny out of Kansas, Brandon Coleman is out of TCU, if I'm not mistaken, right?
TCU.
So Duke Manyweather, who does O-line Masterminds, did an interview with Dane Brugler today, and he said that Brandon Coleman is a guy that can play both inside and out, but he's a guy that he's a hard pass at left tackle. The Tennessee Titans do need a right tackle currently, for all intents and purposes, because we don't really know where Jalen Duncan, Dylan Radins, and all these guys fit in the new scheme.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that Duke Manyweather says he's the most athletic. He's the freak of the 2024 prospects that Duke Manyweather is coaching. He is the athletic freak, the first name that comes to mind. So when you're looking at a guy like Brandon Coleman, he's going to be outside, inside. When you do that, do you put a lot of emphasis on, when you're at the Senior Bowl, do you put a lot of emphasis on the amount of time that a player like that would spend at each, or do you view it as in a vacuum? Here's what he did at tackle. Here's what he did at guard. I don't care how many reps he got at either. I feel he can be this at the NFL level.
It's absolutely in a vacuum. Like I just want to see, the performance. I'm not putting a lot of stock. I'm not counting the snaps at each position. I just want to look at the eye test and just see, like, because that'll tell you, man, like, just get a drive or two. And if he looks comfortable, maybe you play him more, maybe you swap it up. I don't know what goes into those coaching decisions. I feel like all of these guys are probably going to play all along the offensive line this week. But yeah, I'm just looking at it in a vacuum.
Okay, so I see that you've got a bucket list here. List of different buckets, like players that you think are going to play at certain positions.
Yeah.
Run through, because it's not a lot of names, but run through the way that you've came up with these buckets.
Yeah.
And how and who and why did you put him in there?
Well, first of all, it's this list has just gone to shit because Cooper Beebe's not going to be here. Troy Fontenot's not going to be here. There are some changes that'll be made, but I looked at it from a roster, the roster total standpoint. There's going to be, at the time, there were 31 offensive linemen that were going to be here. You look at it's going to be 2 teams, American and National. So you figure each side's going to have about 15 guys. There are 5 positions along the offensive line. You're probably looking at 3 deep for each team at each position. So then I started looking through and saying, okay, this guy played left tackle in college. This guy has the length, the size to play left tackle at the NFL. He's probably going to get a lot of looks at left tackle. Another guy might have the shorter arms and say, well, he played left tackle in college, but he projects as a guard. He's probably going to play left guard. Some guys played exclusively center in college. The size dictates that they will play center. And then there's a lot of like tweener guys that played tackle but project as a guard, that played guard but project as a center, so on and so forth. So yeah, I did the best I could to kind of put guys in buckets of where I expected them to play, and it could all just be completely wrong by the time we get to Hancock Whitney Stadium. So like
Jordan Morgan,
I
played left tackle.
I had it left tackle.
So, but now you got the measurements. Do you put him at left guard?
I put him at left guard.
Do you? How much time do they spend with him practicing the tackle position? Because obviously you want to see it.
I'm curious
in person, right?
Because I mean, you never know. Like, this is the same conversation we had with Peter Skronsky.
But we knew about Peter Skronsky.
Well, yeah. But there were still people that were like, you know what? Maybe he can play left tackle.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because a lot of what the Senior Bowl does here, where guys play, is based off of what the NFL scouts are telling them.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll give them tips like,
right, because scouts tell the coaches and they say they had an example of that recently.
Yeah.
Was it Graham Barton?
It might have been Graham Barton.
But they said that they want to see him play center.
Yeah.
And that's what the scouts said. So they're going to play him at center some here. It's kind of like Cody Mock, right? Cody Mock played center, and he's never played center before in his life.
So it just depends, man. If there are a couple of scouts out there that say, you know what, he has the pedigree at left tackle, maybe the arms aren't an issue. Like, if we want to take a flyer on this guy, maybe let's see him get some work at left tackle and just see how he does this week.
Okay, so we're going to move on to wide receiver.
Okay.
And what I'm personally looking for is pretty much all over the map, but I'm looking at the bigger, stronger guys. So like if you're 6 feet and over, I'm going to be really focused on you today, because that's
me.
Yeah, that's you. I'll be focused
6'2".
on you, babe. And that's what Brian Callahan has said: bigger, stronger, faster. And so to me, it's like you look at Tyler Boyd, who's a lot bigger than I think what people realize. So. Sure. You know, Tyler Boyd's over 6 feet, and I don't think anybody thinks that, the guy that plays primarily slot for the Bengals is that tall, but he's massive, and he's really tall. We know that Jamar Chase is really tall. We have lost our video, but we have our audio, so don't worry about that. Let's see what happened here. Camera battery very low, so that'd be why. So give me 1 second.
All right.
So why don't you talk about why go fix the camera? You talk about the player that you're most excited to see today.
Well, I can also weigh in on wide receiver as well, with the traits that I want to look for this week in Mobile. I am a sucker for defensive back manipulation. So you got the big, strong, fast guys. Which of that group can go out there and put a cornerback in a blender? I like the stuff going to work. Like I said, with a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. is a good example. He's not here, but somebody like him that will battle cornerbacks at the line of scrimmage to get open. That's a trait that I think translates really well to the NFL. So I would say, like, keep an eye on who's out there winning those battles on an island, getting around defensive backs, restacking, separating down the field, an important skill to have. And I think there are some guys on this Senior Bowl roster that can do that. Now, as Zach mentioned, we each brought a player to the show this morning that we thought we haven't talked about yesterday. So I can't mention I can't mention Jordan Morgan or Patrick Paul anymore. We're past that. I want to bring a guy. I actually wrote down 5 names, and Zach told me I couldn't do that because I said too much at the end of the show yesterday when we were trying to get out of here. But I think the name that I would want to talk about is Delmar Glaze out of Maryland. 6'4", 323. The measurements came in yesterday, 34.5-inch arms. That is tackle length. It's kind of a fringe guy. I watched the tape. I watched a few of his games, and I kind of thought from looking at the guy that length might be an issue with him because his arms kind of look short, but I think it's just the way that he's built. This is a guy that at Maryland, I watched the Ohio State game. He's played left tackle. He played right tackle. I think a lot of people think that he's going to be a guard. He is one of these versatile pieces that I am going to be keeping an eye on this week to see where he has played, where the coaches have him, if he's going to be guard or if the measurements come in, and he's a guy that they might give a shot at tackle, left or right side. But he plays with a mean streak. He plays with a mean streak. He's got a strong jump set, gets underneath the leverage, technically sound, thick build, low center of gravity, forceful hands, and drive as a run blocker. I think this is a pretty intriguing prospect here that not a lot of folks are talking about.
I like it. We have a question in the chat. It's from D Good.
Okay.
He asked where Jordan Morgan stacks up to Skoronski. So if you'll find Jordan Morgan's measurements, I got Skoronski's right here.
Let's see here. He's around here somewhere. I thought I wrote him down, but I did not. Am I looking at the wrong
Probably.
roster?
I think he's national here.
National. Jordan Morgan.
Okay.
6'4",
312, 313. So he's saying, let's go one at a time.
Okay.
He's saying Peter Skoronski, or he's saying Jordan Morgan. I'm saying Peter Skoronski for those that are on here.
Okay. 6'4",
312, 313.
32 7/8.
Okay, so he has longer arms, 32.25 for arm length over, so 32 1/4 for Skoronski. So he has slightly longer arms.
Okay. And then 81 1/4 inch wingspan.
Okay, so 79.5 wingspan for Skoronski. So he has a longer wingspan.
And people were kind of iffy on Skoronski.
And what about hand size, real quick?
Hand size for Morgan is 10 6/8.
He's got bigger hands as well, 10-inch hands. So there you go.
Maybe all hope is not lost.
Maybe all hope is not lost on Jordan Morgan. But that's from D Good. So D Good, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
As far as a wide receiver that I'm going to be looking at today, he's a guy that played at the Hula Bowl. I was going to call it the Hulu Bowl. I was going to call it the Hulu Bowl. The guy that played at the Hula Bowl, and you watched the Hula Bowl.
I did.
And you said he didn't really stand out, but here he is at the Senior Bowl, which means that scouts wanted to either see more of this guy, and that guy is from Southeast Missouri.
SEMO.
Ryan Flournoy over here for this, as I'm stuttering over my words because I'm trying to pull up something. Ryan Flournoy, he is 6'1", 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Got a 31-inch arm, 10-inch hands. He's got one of the bigger hands in this wide receiver class, and he's got a wingspan of 76 3/8. Here's what you need to know. So, like I said, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, right? His shuttle time is 4.22, and his three-cone, the L drill, was 6.66. So, to put that in perspective, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is very small, he's much smaller, both in weight and in height, was 6.57. So this guy is just less than a tenth of a second off of JSN. So he is a freak of nature, of athleticism. He's also bench pressed 350 pounds. He is power clean 325, and he squatted 510 pounds. What I love about some Ryan Flournoy is this stat right here.
Let's hear it. Hit us with
yards after catch per reception, 7.5 and 6.6 over his 2 years as a wide receiver for the Southeast Missouri Redhawks.
Yeah.
That is massive yards per reception. Just to put that in perspective, 7.5 yards after catch per reception. Okay. Keep that in mind. 7.5. His yards per reception were 14. So over half of those yards per reception come from his yak. That is insane. And guess what? Guess what San Francisco likes? Guess what the Cincinnati Bengals like? This guy is it. And he is draft eligible, of course, obviously, because he's here at the Senior Bowl. He must be, I think he's one of their juniors, if I'm not mistaken. I will be watching this guy today. Like a Red Hawk. Too. Yeah, a late edition because he played at the Hula Bowl. So he's a late addition to it. But I'm going to be watching him like a Red Hawk.
Love them freaks, man.
Yeah, there's not much you can take away from here besides obviously always have your power.
Yeah.
But it's day one. So there's going to be some surprises, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some disappointments. And that's stuff that we will talk about at stackingtheinbox.com and SoBrosNetwork.com.
Yeah, we might come back later today and be like, man, Jordan Morgan's the left tackle of the future.
You never know.
Forget that arm length.
That will do it for us. That's our day one preview show. I know it's a little light on the information, but we're going to be here tomorrow.
We're about to go gather the information.
We got to go get the information. Yeah. We're just previewing right now. For those that don't know and aren't subscribers to stackingtheinbox.com, there are Senior Bowl previews by Stoney that are written up that you can go find.
Yep.
There are also this morning at stackingtheinbox.com, we put up the scouting profiles for Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors.
Oh, you put that up?
Put that up this morning.
So now people can read what I said when about
they can
Brian Thomas Jr.
There you go. So you can read it. It's up there right now. And of course, we also Stacking Inbox. I gave out yesterday morning my 10 prospects that fit the team captain criteria that Brian Callahan put out. So it's very important that you guys stay up to date, and we're going to give you more up-to-date information as the week goes on. Every morning, 8:30 a.m., we'll be here for you. That will do it for us.
Shout out Lions Ford.
And Sinkers Beverages, BuildKG.com.
There we go.
There you go. We got all the sponsors, but Lions Ford, especially, they're a travel sponsor for these week shows. They're a main sponsor. So make sure that you guys go to lionsford.net. It's a .net because that is cheap for whatever reason. Did not get .com. I'll never understand it. But that's what he did. Lionsford.net. That will do it for us. Stoney Keeley at Stoney Keeley on X, at FWordsPod on X for myself. Make sure you turn on those notifications for us so you can get some exclusives in-game or in-practice Senior Bowl coverage. There's also Easton Freeze is down here. JT is down here for the Hot Read podcast. We went out with them last night. They're also going to be covering the Senior Bowl. So I think that covers the whole 440 network that is down here.
Yeah. Assuming they're awake. I don't know.
Assuming they're awake.
Have we heard from them?
We have not heard from them. But that will do it for us. This has been a football show.